Through the roaring crowds of Rome, a young Egyptian woman is being dragged past jeering spectators, disheveled, trembling, eyes cast down. The Roman mob has seen plenty of spectacles, but an Egyptian princess in shackles? That's rare entertainment. People are climbing onto statues and rooftops to catch a glimpse. And somewhere nearby, watching from behind palace walls, is the woman who put her there. Cleopatra, the queen who ordered her own sister's execution without losing a wink of sleep. One rival down, many more to go. Born into a trap. Let's rewind 5 years. Cleopatra is 18. Her brother, Ptolemy, is 10. Together, they inherit one of the most powerful thrones in the ancient world, a dynasty that has ruled Egypt for 3 centuries. Like their ancestors, they're expected to marry within the family. Power stays in the bloodline. That's the deal. But outside their gilded palace, a much bigger problem is brewing. Egypt is the breadbasket of the ancient world. The Nile floods, the grain grows, and for centuries, Rome has been the #1 customer. But here's the thing. Rome is no longer satisfied just buying the grain. Roman generals are starting to eye Egypt the way a wolf eyes a sheep pen. The Ptolemies, before Cleopatra, dealt with this by essentially paying Rome to leave them alone. They borrowed massive sums, sometimes half the country's entire annual revenue, just to fund the bribes that kept Roman generals at bay. Add to that a series of weak Nile floods that gutted the economy, and you've got a population that is furious. And inside the palace, equally treacherous. Cleopatra has 2 younger siblings who could challenge her, a teenage sister named Arsinoë and a little brother barely old enough to read. Her co-ruler Ptolemy is being coached by older advisors who would love nothing more than to reduce Cleopatra to a figurehead. She refuses. The first betrayal. For nearly 2 years, Cleopatra acts as if she's running the show alone. She holds ceremonies without her brother, signs royal decrees with only her name, mints coins with her face. In Ptolemy's court, his advisors are watching and seething. Then Rome comes calling again. More grain, more ships, more tribute. Cleopatra obliges. She has no choice. You don't defy a creditor who has legions. But for ordinary Alexandrians already suspicious of Roman influence, this is the last straw. Ptolemy's handlers spin the narrative. The queen is selling Egypt to the Romans. She must go. In 49 BCE, palace guards throw Cleopatra out of Alexandria. Her name is erased from official records. She is 21 years old, exiled from the city she was born to rule. She doesn't cry. She starts recruiting. The carpet, the general, the deal. Within a year, she has an army. She's ready to march on her own brother. Then, breaking news from Alexandria. Julius Caesar, the most powerful Roman alive, has just landed in the city. He's there to collect an enormous debt owed to Rome. He needs money, desperately, and he's staying in the royal palace. Cleopatra makes a calculation that will change the course of history. She doesn't send a messenger. She doesn't request an audience. She sails into Alexandria under cover of darkness, sneaks past Ptolemy's guards, and has herself smuggled inside Caesar's private chambers, hidden inside a rolled-up linen sack. By the time the sun rises, she has his full attention. Caesar announces a solution. Cleopatra and Ptolemy will share the throne. Simple, civilized. Except it ignites the entire city. Alexandrians who'd rallied behind Ptolemy now see a Roman general propping up a queen they'd just thrown out. Riots erupt, militias form, and Arsinoë, the teenage sister who has spent her whole life in Cleopatra's shadow, sees her moment. She slips out of the palace, finds her brother's general, and declares herself the real queen of Egypt, the one untouched by Rome. The crowd loves it. The siege. For 4 months, Cleopatra and Caesar are effectively trapped inside the royal palace, while Arsinoë's forces and Ptolemy's army hold the city. It's one of history's most dramatic standoffs. The most powerful man in the world and the most cunning woman in the ancient world, pinned in a palace by an angry teenager. Then, Roman reinforcements punch through from the east. The siege collapses. Ptolemy tries to flee across the Nile by boat and drowns. Arsinoë is captured and sent to Rome in chains, paraded.
Caesar's triumph as a prisoner of war, then spared by the crowd and sent into exile. Cleopatra is back on the throne. She now rules alongside her youngest brother, a 13-year-old boy with no advisors. No threat, for now. Caesar leaves for Syria, taking 3 legions with him to keep the peace, and leaving behind something else, a newborn son, Caesarion, a child who is half Roman, half Egyptian, and entirely Cleopatra's most powerful political weapon. The alliance that almost was. When Cleopatra travels to Rome with Caesarion, she expects a triumph. What she gets is a cold shoulder. Caesar's enemies are already whispering. She's pulling him toward monarchy, seducing him away from Roman values. She's foreign. She's dangerous. The ancient smear playbook. Powerful woman, Eastern kingdom, bewitching the righteous Roman hero, is already being written. And then, on March 15th, 44 BCE, the Ides of March, Julius Caesar is assassinated. 23 stab wounds, Senate floor, by men he considered colleagues. Cleopatra's entire strategy collapses in an afternoon. She waits. Maybe Caesarion will be named in the will. Maybe she survives this. The will is read. Caesarion's name is not in it. Caesar's great-nephew Octavian inherits everything. With nothing left in Rome, Cleopatra sails back to Alexandria. She executes her remaining teenage brother, replacing him on paper with the 3-year-old Caesarion, and begins rebuilding her position from scratch. Enter Mark Antony. By 42 BCE, Rome has cracked in two. Octavian controls the western half. Caesar's favorite general, Mark Antony, controls the east. And since he controls the east, he controls Egypt's fate, which makes him Cleopatra's biggest threat, and potentially her next move. Antony is everything Caesar wasn't: physically imposing, impulsive, a legendary drinker and womanizer who actually claimed to be descended from Hercules. He summons Cleopatra to his camp in 41 BCE, presumably expecting her to come begging. What she does instead becomes one of the most calculated power plays in ancient history. She arrives on a gilded ship, purple sails, herself dressed as the goddess Isis. She keeps him waiting, declines his invitation to dinner, and instead invites him onto her ship. She doesn't need him to respect her. She needs him to want what she has. By morning, the alliance is set. Her first request? Arsinoë must die. Antony's soldiers drag her from the Temple of Artemis, where she'd been living under Roman protection, and execute her on the temple steps. For Cleopatra, it's the end of a 10-year threat. She opens Egypt's treasury in return: ships, silver, resources to fund Antony's eastern campaigns.
He gives her vast swaths of Mediterranean territory. She gives birth to twins. Their alliance is cemented in politics, power, and blood. The gamble that broke everything. Antony decides to do what no Roman has managed: conquer the Parthian Empire, modern-day Iran, the great unconquered East. It is a catastrophe. He loses a quarter of his army. He limps back to Syria in winter with sick, unpaid, demoralized soldiers. He begs Cleopatra for help. She hesitates. Because while Antony is losing in the east, Octavian is winning in the west. Victory after victory. His reputation is growing. Antony's is bleeding out. When she finally arrives, she brings food and warm clothing, but not the silver to pay his troops. She is hedging her bets. The following year, Antony bounces back, invades Armenia, wins, and decides to celebrate by staging the most audacious ceremony the ancient world has seen. In Alexandria, before a massive crowd, he crowns Cleopatra Queen of Kings. He grants their children rule over Roman territories, and he publicly declares Caesarion to be the true son and heir of Julius Caesar. It's the greatest endorsement Cleopatra has ever received. It's also a declaration of war against Octavian. The Propaganda War. Octavian understands something Antony doesn't. Wars are won in the mind before they're won on the battlefield. He paints himself as the heir of Apollo, youth, reason, Roman virtue, against the impulsive, reckless Antony, weakened, he says, by an Eastern queen who has stolen his mind and his loyalty. He seizes Antony's personal will and has it read aloud to the Senate. The most shocking line? Antony wishes to be buried in Alexandria, beside Cleopatra, not in Rome, not among his ancestors. The Senate is furious, and Octavian is
careful. He doesn't declare war on Antony, his fellow Roman, his fellow ruler. Instead, he declares war on Cleopatra, the foreign queen, the Eastern threat. By casting it as Rome versus Egypt, he turns a civil war into a righteous crusade. Actium, September 31 BCE, the Gulf of Actium off the coast of Greece. Cleopatra has personally funded a quarter of Antony's armada, 230 warships, nearly 700 tons of silver to pay the troops, and all provisions. This is her war too. But the defensive position Antony has chosen is slowly killing them. Malaria is spreading through the marshes. Men are dying before a single battle has been fought. Cleopatra's assessment is brutal. They cannot win this fight. The only logical move is to load the treasury onto ships, break through the naval blockade, retreat to Egypt, and regroup. War isn't over as long as money remains. On September 2nd, as the afternoon winds rise and the battle turns against them, Cleopatra's 60 ships surge forward through Antony's own line, carrying the treasury, carrying the future, breaking for open water. Antony's flagship follows. The rest of the fleet tries to do the same. Most are captured. Most are sunk. Octavian wins. And now, he needs just two things to finish the war: Egypt's gold and Cleopatra alive in chains. The end that wasn't a defeat. For months, Cleopatra and Antony try to negotiate from Alexandria. Octavian refuses every offer. When his army finally reaches the city, Cleopatra retreats into her royal mausoleum. She locks herself in with the entire Egyptian treasury and stacks of firewood. The message is clear. Try to take this gold,
and I'll burn it before you touch it." Then she hears shouting. Antony's servants burst in carrying him, barely alive. He'd received false news that she was dead and stabbed himself. She holds him as he dies, her last powerful ally, the father of her children, gone. Octavian's soldiers seize her before she can act. They bring her to face him in the palace. He tells her she will be spared. She doesn't believe him for a second. She knows exactly what awaits her in Rome. She watched her sister dragged through those streets in chains. She has spent 16 years making sure no one could ever make her beg. "I will not be paraded in triumph." On August 10th, 30 BCE, Cleopatra dies alongside two loyal handmaidens. The ancient sources argue over the method: poison, snakebite, even assassination on Octavian's orders. Her tomb has never been found. Not a single word written by her own hand has survived. Everything we know about Cleopatra comes from Roman sources, the voices of the people who defeated her. And even the writers working for Octavian, the men with every reason to diminish her, couldn't help but describe her as one of the most formidable political minds they had ever encountered. She was erased from history and became its most enduring queen anyway. Octavian had her killed, turned her into a cautionary tale, and used her memory to forge an empire. It is a strategy: powerful woman as foreign threat, weaponized to consolidate power at home, that has been repeated by strongmen ever since. But every attempt to bury Cleopatra has only made her more permanent. The last queen of Egypt. Still, 2,000 years later, the most famous ruler it ever had.